Welcome to another edition of the channel's Mailbag. So what is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is the part of the channel that you guys actually control. It's based on comments, questions, general feedback that you guys leave either on the YouTube channel, the website, or through one of my social media feeds. Mailbag contains what I think the answer is, what I think my view of the comment is, or sometimes, I just throw it out to the wider audience and say, what do you guys think? That's what Mailbag is. So let's get in to the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. This next one comes from Sandy Feetgore in response to SY85 Part 5 disc drive replacement, a video I did in June 2020, just in the middle of lockdown. Sandy writes, there is a way to save that Matsushita floppy drives bit for this. You not only need a belt, but I failed with the same procedure first. You also need to flash or reset the setup driver on the floppy drive. Not sure if anyone has the procedure for that. This is something I did not know. But thanks for the information. I was just completely unaware that there was a requirement to flash or reset the floppy drive. I just thought it was a replacement belt, and in my case, the belt had completely perished. So I couldn't find any reference in the service manual. Does anyone have the documentation? Because when I wrote back to Sandy and said, do you have the documentation? He wrote back and said, unfortunately not. I have 5 bad Matsushita drives here now. I read the comments in Commodore Amiga chats about the possibility to flash those drives with the fault that was being displayed. On the other hand, they transform HD drives into DD drives, and this seems to be easier for them. But it's not usable from the Amiga or Korg X3 Yamaha SY85. So there you go. I never knew that, but for the SY85, you need the Matsu drive flashed. Alternatively, do what I did, which is go and buy a new direct drive unit, because that gets you around that particular error. It gets you around that particular issue. This comment question comes from Alexandra Sylvia. This was in response to the Yamaha SY85 Restoration Power Supply Part 2 video I did in April 2020, right in the middle of lockdown. And Alexandra writes, good evening, my SY85 power supply is damaged and I don't know how to fix it. Is there a replacement power supply from another instrument? Just funny enough, done a mailbag exactly on this, on a very similar thing. Now, the power supplies to these various vintage synthesizers are an interesting subject and something you do not want to be messing about with due to the fact you have mains voltage on one side of the board. However, most of these synths of this era operate on 4 voltages. It's a plus 12 volts, a minus 12 volts, a plus 5 volts, and a 0 ground. And in this case, with the Yamaha SY85, it's plus or minus 12 volts used for the amplification circuits, while the actual 5 volts runs the internal circuitry and the floppy disk drive. Now, in terms of other synths power supplies being compatible, both the SY99 and the SY77 power supplies give out the same voltages. However, the physical dimensions of the power supply differ, meaning that they either basically will not fit or require modification to fit. Another consideration is a power supply that's been suppressed. Another consideration is how the power supply has been suppressed. Some of the synths and instruments at the lower end of the market had poorly designed and built power supplies and would not be a good substitute. Personally, if I were going to do this, if I was, and I do have these power supplies in the workshop, I would be looking at something like a Meanwell RT minus 50B or an RT minus 50C. This is a modern switch mode power supply. that can operate on input voltages between 100 and 240 volts AC and produce a 5 volt DC, a plus or minus 12 volt DC, and that's the 50B version. And if you need 15 volts, plus or minus 15 volts, it's the 50C version, with plenty of amps on the power supply to run the synthesizer. The advantage of these power supplies is they are small, less than 10 by 10 in dimensions. That's 10 centimeters by, and you can purchase them pre-shielded as an option. They're about £25 plus shipping. The downside to this route is you will have to build the mounting plate for them, as it's not a like for like swap. There is a link to these transformers on Amazon if you want to go and check them out. So if I remember correctly, I'll put the link below the video.